another continuation, another video for the Native Americans series, and I promised that I would keep talking about these different things. This is meant to help, not to harm. And I need everybody to understand that I do take, as a person of color myself, I take serious the ramifications of colonialization. I am very empathetic and I am sensitive to that as a person of color myself. What I do want, what my intent is to show the root cause of colonialization. So that way, once we understand the root cause, we then know how to combat what we have going on today, but in Jesus, and how to get free, and how to get free from it, and how to get free from, and well, healed and delivered from the ramifications therein, the generational traumas. And, you know, via my own research and godly revelation and the things that God has shown me, because I won't be doing this. This is going to be a series not just with Native American people, but I'm going to be addressing all of these topics with all the different ethnic groups to talk about how it has affected all people, how all people have been on some level deceived, oppressed, enslaved, because the whole point is for everyone to get free. And I feel that as someone who has traveled the world, who has grown up with almost every ethnic group known to man, I've gotten to see a lot. And this is just me sharing what I see, sharing what I've seen, research on top of that I've done that confirms many, many things. And then also the godly, biblical insight that God has given me that I can hopefully share with other people. And I really do hope this helps. This is why this has to be a series, because this has to be taken delicately, video by video, slowly. I'm trying to make this digestible for everybody. Now, this video in particular, and I got my other phone with me so that way, because I got scriptures and everything that I want to that I intend to back this up with. I want to talk about one of the lies that Native Americans believed, and that starts with, because this wasn't just Native American people, all human beings had beliefs in many different gods and goddesses and different beings, and you know, and I very much believe, and I in this video I want to talk about the deception of those beings and how the worshiping of those beings actually brought about the destruction of, in this case, Native American people and civilizations, and how Native American people and civilizations and nations still suffer the ramifications of what these beings have done. To start with, I had some interesting material here that I wanted to talk about, that I wanted to use. About how there are, in many ancient cultures, there was this belief that, well, apparently the so-called beings, the pre-Christian beings that many pre-Christian cultures worshipped, apparently there were prophecies of the coming of the white man. And not only was there a foretelling of the white, and this is not in any way to tack on all white people. We're not saying all white people are racist, not all white people are, that's not what I'm saying. The disclaimer needs to be said because somebody don't get the wrong idea. I just want to clarify. But apparently there was a foretelling of them coming, and they were Native Americans were told to receive them, welcome them, and worship them as gods. And I just brought, and I have some literature here, you know, proving this. Nevertheless, memories of such meetings passed from generation to generation within tribes. Some traditions were called dreams and premonitions and prophecies that foretold the coming of powerful strangers. Stories, no doubt, retold with increasing bitterness as Europeans kept coming. In many ancient cultures, there is good evidence of pre-contact prophecies concerning the coming of whites who would bring them a secret to life or be a part in the ending of their culture or the ushering in of the apocalypse or some new age or new way of life. This occurred in South America before the Spanish conquistadors came, the Quetzalcoatl prophecy prior to Cortes among the Aztecs, and also similar things among the Inca and also in places in many other places. In both cases, this caused locals to receive the conquistadors, or the missionaries that also came too. A book by Jaguar priests in the Yucatan speaks of the coming of white bearded men, who they believed to bear the sign of the Almighty God. This is marked in the history during 300 AD. Based on the books, Quetzalcoatl is bound to return someday. That was their god. By the way, the Yucatan Peninsula, Mexico. The writings of the Native Americans refer to the Quetzalcoatl god-man and the historic Quetzalcoatl, with the latter performing a duty as a Toltec ruler who gave messages of peace to mankind. This man eventually suffered at the hands of the religious high priest, who made plots against him that cost him his life. In addition, there was the god Quetzalcoatl, who was present during the creation of the world. In fact, he was also one of the 4 directional gods associated with the wind, rain, and 4 cardinal directions. Moreover, he was known as the white god of the West. Just like his father, he is known as the god of civilization, and was the one who gave the world the arts, calendar, science, and corn. I want to respond to this one because this one in particular I thought was interesting, because I thought it was interesting how it had similarities to the story of the Christian God and how in the way Christ was treated. And I actually believe that that right there was actually proof that Native Americans had Christianity. You know, I think, and it's actually been proven that Christianity was in the Middle East and Africa long before it was anywhere else. And obviously Native Americans, I've talked about their African descendants and ancestors, in a previous video. Feel free to refer back to that one. And so I actually believe that Native Americans they had Christianity way beforehand. And I feel like reading what I just read just now proved that. But what I do believe happened was that these so-called beings, because and look that up, feel free to look that up, but I mean, every Native American culture has stories of these beings that came from other planets. People like to call them, aliens. Many cultures have different names on what they call them, and apparently brought all kinds of things, taught them all kinds of things, including, religion. But in reality, I believe that Christianity was there first, but these beings came and they twisted Christianity, and to take Christ out of everything, a new creation, a new religion was created, and instead of worshiping Yahweh, Yeshua, I believe that people began to worship these different beings. And that's what I believe happened in this particular situation, because I felt that when I was reading that, it's like there was literally a mixing of both Christianity and the latter belief that came later. And that's what that to me was like, wow. So I don't know, that to me proves that, I mean, come on, if you listen to many Native American songs you hear Yahweh in there. So I'm like, that ain't a sign, I don't know what is. And another thing I wanted to read here. Also, the Hopis believe that a lost white brother will return in the future when the world ends. The tribe anticipates the return of Pahana, or the lost white brother, just like the Aztecs expected the coming of Quetzalcoatl, which is similar to the belief of the Mayans, that Kulkulkan, or the white bearded god, will come again. Can y'all believe that? So those are just to name a few examples. And unfortunately, when the white man came, and I'm not saying that it was completely wrong that the white man came and, we're looking for a better life and da-da-da-da-da. What we have a problem with is obviously the raping and the hacking and hoeing and the hewing and the genocide and all the horrible acts that took place when many of them came. However, because I remember learning in junior high school age, I just thought it was interesting learning a lot of this. That's why I'm bringing it up now as an adult. But I just thought it was interesting that when the white man came, why did they think they were gods? It's like, did nobody... And I know a lot of people are trying to think, well, you know, many will say that, oh, well, they were more advanced technologically. I'm like, no, because many societies of color, including Native Americans, I mean, obviously you had primitive Native American peoples and tribes, but a lot of the people that, you got to think about this. Many of the people that were conquered by the Europeans, these were not no primitive people. If you read the literature, they were highly advanced technologically, and they had all these things that the Europeans had never seen before. Because you got to think about it. If they didn't have anything, you think the Europeans would have bothered them? You got to think about this. Satan he don't mess with empty houses. So you can't tell me that they were bothering people that had nothing. And then obviously we have the information now proving the advanced cultures that were prevalent then, and many archaeologists and scientists are still trying to figure out how they made and created a lot of this stuff. So I mean, and then also too, why they thought they were gods. I really think it has to do with the fact that the beings that were being worshipped at the time genuinely told them they're coming, welcome them, worshiping them as gods. And I honestly believe that that was the downfall of not one culture, but many, 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 many cultures. And I'm going to cover how this affected not just, because right now we're doing Native American culture. I'm going to get to all the other cultures because I want to talk about how all of this affected all the cultures and not just, but right now we're dealing with this particular one now. And I want to talk about the scriptural side of this. And I very much believe that worshiping these beings, they were more than happy to accept your worship. I do believe that, the people you call witch doctors, medicine people, every culture had different names for these people that communicated with these beings. I believe that they were receiving real insight. That's a very real thing. And there was a lot of deception that went along with that. And, like in Hollywood, you have a lot of these stars that are coming forward and admitting that they have sold their souls to the devil to get the wealth and prestige and all the stuff that they have. And I honestly believe that's what happened then. But I believe that the people had gotten so far removed from God, like by that time, Christianity was long gone, because because you look at these different societies and how when they went away from God, those societies were eventually destroyed. So that's what I very much believe happened. These beings tricked them. They were happy to give the people whatever they wanted, just like in Hollywood. These people get whatever they want, but you notice these people have no peace. A lot of them die young too. We're hearing about a lot of these stars dying young. And they have all these terrible things happening to them. People die around them. That's what was going on then. And I honestly believe that when the Europeans came, this was why these beings ushered this in. They ushered them in. And they tricked, deceived entire groups of people and orchestrated their destruction. And the Bible covers this. When the children of Israel, obviously there are many scriptures that talks about how God got angry with them when they turned away from him and worshipped other gods and other beings that had nothing to do with Yahweh. They cried out to God, asking God for help, because people think they can treat God like Santa Claus. They were no exception. And they feel like they can worship other gods, and then When they need God's help, they want to call on God for help. Well, in Judges 10:14, God literally told them, "Go and cry out to the gods whom you have chosen. Let me save you in the time of to let them save you in the time of distress." And so, what I say that to say, and this is not victim blaming or shaming, because I'm not going to sit up here and blame, people of the past, because it's quite possible that maybe they didn't know better, they didn't know what they were getting themselves into. We don't know. But when a society is completely removed from Christianity, when they don't have God, Yahweh, let me say Yahweh, Yeshua, this is telling you that you don't have the protection, and we can't treat God like he's Santa Claus and be like, okay, I'm gonna worship these beings over here, but then when I need something from God, I'll just ask him whenever I really, when I'm in trouble. Unfortunately, a lot of people do that. And I do feel that on some level, I think that every civilization, did that. People groups did that. I'm not saying that the horrible things that happened were deserved at all. No human being on planet Earth deserves that at all. I don't condone evil against any group ever. But I really believe that without God's covering, this stuff happened. And I know a lot of people, and one of the things that I've asked people is this. One of the reasons why I think these beings are false is because when all these horrible things were happening, why didn't they come to rescue? They didn't do that. And then some people might ask, why didn't Yahweh? Well, the Bible says that we have not because we ask not. There are too many examples in the Bible where the children of Israel, when they called on Yahweh and needed his help, he came and he delivered them out of the hands of their enemy. But when they were worshiping other gods and other beings, God had to leave them to their judgment. And I very much believe that what happened to Black Americans and what happened to Native Americans, and because even Black Americans are saying it more and more now, that they believe that is what happened, because the judgment came upon due to going after other gods. Again, I'm not saying anybody deserved what happened, but without God's covering, we leave ourselves open to all manners of wickedness. And these beings that we thought were gods were actually demons. And I'm convinced, based on everything I've said so far and everything I've read, all the research, that's what they were. And I say that to say, in part, as far as the whole